congratulations to you guys, to those of you who have taken out the time, the dedication to block off some of your schedule to join us to, definitely take your golf games, take your lives to the next level, to whichever level that you guys wanted to get to. But tonight we are going to be discussing or talking about how to design your most effective practice session. Yeah, so as we get started, we are talking about, we've all been playing golf for a while now, and we've been definitely introducing it and getting in our schedule a lot more regularly. And we're finding lots of times to practice and train and play. And we definitely want to make sure that when we are training, when we are practicing and getting the time to get in, we are making the most of the time that we spend. So just a few things, have you ever, couple questions is, have you ever attended or planned a practice session where you went an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and at the end you just kind of said to yourself, well, was that it? Or what did I learn? Or depending on how it went, kind of ask yourself, yes, it was a good practice because I hit some good shots or it felt pretty good. Or the opposite is if things didn't go your way, you didn't hit it as well as you wanted to, or your practice session didn't go as well as you wanted to, as far as performance wise, you came like, it really wasn't that good, or, I don't even know. And then you kind of leave just not knowing the outcome, and it's all performance based on being reactive to what happened in that session, where we don't get the clarity to see and extract, the learning aspects from what happened. Or, maybe you went and played 9 holes at the golf course or played a tournament, and you finish the tournament or you finish your practice round or your 9-hole session coming off. And again, it's just performance based on that score. Yes, I did good, or I did really good. I did not so good, or it's just okay. And it's all based on, either your score or based on emotions that you felt as you played. Maybe we went out and I didn't hit it as well as I wanted to. I scored okay, or I scored really well, but my shots weren't that solid, or it was going a little bit right. So it was just okay. And, taking in the emotion of, I guess, not knowing and letting our emotions get in the way from us extracting the valuable learning information to then make the next session better. As you go through those, right, we all had those, and just a little bit of that's basically the entire career of my junior and college career, my entire competitive career, playing junior golf and in college. It was exactly like that. I would go to practice, and I'd practice a ton when I was in, a junior golfer. As I got older in high school, definitely every day in college, around, classes built around the schedule of golf, and practice a ton. And I would say, I always told myself the story that if I spend the time playing and practicing, that is going to take over and get me to wherever I want to go. I just have to spend the time. And the more time I spend, eventually it's going to come. I'm going to put in my dues and get it in there. So I would definitely be playing, practicing all the time, hitting. I mean, I can't even imagine how many golf balls I hit, with versus, my peers that I grew up playing with. Definitely I hit a ton more golf balls than everybody. Spent a lot more time in the practice area, and got the results that I got, which compared to my peer group growing up, I've shared in another story, I was definitely the worst player out of everybody that I grew up playing with, as far as my immediate peer group with my brother and some of my close friends that we grew up playing all the time, competing together. By far the worst golfer. But I spent the most time, on the practice facility. I was known, Aki over there, he has such a beautiful swing. But yet I didn't produce the results because I was just chasing the time and practicing. And I kind of just went with that the entire time, all the way through college, and I did play at a pretty good level, and shot really good scores. And I always kind of wonder, why is it that I spent so much time in this area, I hit so many golf balls, I played so many rounds of golf, but yeah, when it comes to advanced tournaments, when I play with my brother, my friends, my peers, and the people I grew up playing with, why is it that I'm always last place? And, don't get me wrong, not always. I beat them once in a while, but any of the bigger events that really counted and had a lot of stress on it, definitely in a different level than those guys. But I definitely was just as committed, just as desired, than anybody else. And kind of looking back at what had happened, it's just there was no design in the way I practiced. I showed up, grabbed my bucket of balls, I hit it. If it didn't feel well, I go get another bucket of balls, I hit it again. And some days, I stayed there until I felt like I got my fulfillment. Or if my short game or my putting was a little bit off, I would stay there until I figured it out. And some of these days would be long, grueling hours. And I just told myself, I just got to grind it out. And, the people I play with and some of those peers like my brother and some of my close friends, they would show up, they would practice, they would mess around, do some games, they would hit some balls, they would go play, and they're kind of like be bouncing all over the place. And yet, as a junior golfer, as a college golfer, they had better ball striking than me. Well, I'd say I'd strike it just as well as all of them, maybe better than a lot of them. So my ball strike was always pretty good, but control-wise, definitely less ball control than them. Didn't hit it as far as them. My short game wasn't as good as them. And I just couldn't figure out, I guess, where's all my time going and how is it that I spend more time, but I get less results. And, 100% comes down to just how I design my practice. As I'm looking at it now, right, I did get myself to get a long ways just through junior golf in college, but now, totally different lifestyle. I have a beautiful family, a wife and a daughter that I love spending time with. So I don't have as much time that I did as a junior or as a college golfer to, devote to playing and just stay until I figure it out kind of thing. And, I have a golf coaching career that I love doing that takes up a good portion of my time as well. So I have to be, over these last 10 years, I have to be a lot more strategic with my time and how I want to practice. My one goal every year, no matter what, even no matter how busy it is, I'll always work on something to always grow and improve in one aspect, right? And it's not always, let's say I want to shoot a lower score, because shooting a lower score takes a lot of compounding things to get your scores down. But I looked at, what is it that fulfills me? So over the last 10 years, I've figured out, like, not as much time to practice, but yet my ball striking has got tremendously better. My ball control has got tremendously better. My understanding of what controls the ball has got tremendously better. My biggest probably excitement is I hit the ball further now than I did, when I was in college, when I was like at the prime of my age, I guess, in my early 20s, mid 20s, and late teens to, mid 20s, where I'm supposed to be the most fit in my life, where I'm supposed to be growing. And I did hit it pretty far from my size, but now at, the age of 37, and I have no workout regimen at all. I just kind of show up with how I am. And one of my values is I don't really want to work out for golf right now. I want to just, get better with what I have, right? With the limited time that I have. But yet I found a way to hit it a lot further, at least 15 to 25 yards further than when I did playing the best golf, in my mid 20s and earlier. Technology does have a part to play, but my club hit speed has gone up as well. So I'm definitely not as strong as what I was. I'm not as fit as what I was, but yet I discovered a way to hit the ball tremendously further. And, I tell you that just because I did it the way I explained to you earlier, where I just went and practiced a lot before. And then I figured out a way, how can I, if I really want to get better, I have to get committed to what I wanted to do. And that was one of the first things I wanted to do is, what kind of excites me right now? I haven't been playing much golf, and this was, several years ago. What would get me excited enough to stay in it and commit to something that I don't get distracted and discouraged from following through? And I was like, I always wanted to hit it far, playing with some of my friends and peers and some of the events that I played in, everybody hits it so far. So I was like, man, that would be really exciting if I could figure out a way to hit it far. And just kind of dove in and started hitting golf balls, hitting on my launch monitor, figuring out how far is it going, getting a baseline of how far it's going, trying one thing one day, looking out on any kind of resource on YouTube, magazines, talking to other people who hit it far, people that have already done what I'm looking for, and figure out a faster way. And, it definitely didn't come in the first day. And there's all these little skills I had to gain to, gain the yardage that I gained over the last few years just off the driver. Now when I hit it, and even some of my friends, they're like, oh, you make it look so easy. And it's like, it's not easy. I hit thousands and thousands of golf balls, and you should see how many golf balls are off the map. I don't even know the last time I topped golf balls off the tee, but I've topped balls practicing with my driver, just working on different things to see like what is going to move the needle for me to hit the ball further. And I just stuck with it. And for me, it's something that I just looked at every single day. Even if I don't have time, I'm going to find blocks in my schedule my time, and design something, even if it's for 20 minutes, it's going to be on driver, and it's going to be doing this, and be very specific in what I'm doing, what I'm looking for. So even for that 20 minutes, or even some days where it was, 10 minutes where I could hit like 10 balls and sit back and figure out, write in my notes on my phone to say, what did I learn and what can I adjust for the next time that I practice? And over the course of probably 6 months of just busting out as much as I can, it kind of slowly went up, and it kind of brought me to where I'm at today, where I'm hitting it definitely, a good 15 to 25 yards further, just in a matter of, 6 to 8 months that I kind of just pushed through. But, I look at it in terms of my number one focus was just hitting it further. And I did everything that I can, and then went on to design something. So talking to people in the fitness industry, they're saying, no, there's no ways you can do it, because jump in my fitness class, come and see me, and we got to get your, got to get your body stronger for you to hit these numbers. And one thing that didn't excite me was going to the fitness. And again, talking about fulfillment, you have to be fulfilled in what you do. Otherwise, you're going to drop out and you'll dabble, and you're going to just jump in, and you'll get the first sign of discouragement, or I guess non-excitement, and then you won't show up again. Or if you do show up, it's not going to be exciting, and you aren't going to give it your everything. So, I did get invited to go and work out, to do these programs. And I never took them up on it. And it was just for that number one reason, is because I didn't want to waste my time. I knew I wasn't committed in the fitness area, because that doesn't excite me as much. And in the space that I wanted to be is like, I want to figure it out. And if I really needed to, I'm going to, somewhere along the line, I'm going to have to go in and do it if I needed it. But if I can do it without it, I'm going to figure it out without it. And with the searching and just the feedback and the design, I definitely found a way and got myself to the level that I want. And now I'm at a level I'm always wanting more. So now I'm at a point that I'm still trying to get more, but maybe it's the fitness side that I need to get into. But I'm still dabbling, and it's still like on my mind and in my design and my practice. So that being said, I want to share that just because when we design practice and training programs, we always have the expectation that if I spend this time, I'm going to get so much return. If I spend an hour, I get some return. And we're always looking at the performance return. And if it doesn't work, we often tell ourselves, well, maybe I'm going to do something else, or maybe I'm going to try something else. And, if it's not structured and not designed, we only try so much because we're not getting the right feedback. And then we often slip back into well, I'm just going to do what I'm good at because that gives me the sense of fulfillment today. It's going to give me, you know, well, at least I know I can do this well today. But at the end of the day, for long-term development, it's not moving me any closer to the target or the goal that I want to achieve at the time frame I want to do it. So as we jump in there, I do want to share with you as we go now into our first step, right? How is it that we can design your most effective practice session? Number one is you need to determine the number one area that's going to make the biggest or largest impact in your game. So what I mean by that is oftentimes you go and play golf, and let's say we go and play a round of golf, and at the end of our tournament or our practice round, it's, you know, I hit my driver horrible today. I sliced it or I hooked it. It went out of bounds. I couldn't keep it in play. I just got to go work on driver. So then you then go into the next day, or even after that round, you just go get a bucket and all you do is hit drivers. Well, when we look at the number one area that makes the largest impact, if I just go by an emotion, I didn't hit it well, I lost some shots, you're not getting the full story of your game. Your driver could be, you know, the one thing, but we always look for patterns. So we do our best not to judge or not to rate how we did in one round. We look at how was the pattern over the last month? How was it over the last, or if we played a lot of golf in the past week, if we played 3, 4, 5 rounds last week or 2 weeks, how did it do over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of golf, or 3, 4, 5 rounds of or 5 practice sessions that I went out there, and kind of look for the pattern. What's going on in those sessions, not just one. If you play it and you chase, you know, the area every time you go and play, it's always emotion based because you always feel like you can do better. And if you did well, there's places that you're going to say, well, if I did this, I would have got better here. Or if you didn't play as well as you wanted to, it's like everything's out there that you're going to say, well, I didn't do driving. My putting was off. My chipping was off. My ball striking was off. And if we don't look from like a trending standpoint, then it's going to be, you know, hard to determine what that number one area is, because maybe just that one day that you played, it was just off. Maybe we woke up a little bit stiff. We woke up, or we had a rough test that day that we couldn't, you know, get out of our system, and it bothered us when we stepped on the tee. Or you may have had an argument with somebody that was bothering you. You're thinking about it. You know, all of these things kind of affect your emotional state as you're playing, which then could make things that you're really typically good at a little off, just because you're not in the same emotional state as when you're playing, you know, in a high performance level. So look at the trends and then find the number one area. And then also when we're looking at the number one area, we are looking at not necessarily what didn't go. It's not always the spot or the field or the area that we didn't do best. Sometimes it's something that we're pretty good at already that could be better. So we always determine based on time, is it going to be faster for me to get better at a skill that I'm pretty good at already that I can take to the next level, or is it going to be faster for me to take a skill or an area of my game that I'm struggling with at this point? And my example would be, I would get a lot of students that come in and say, I need a chipping and wedge lesson today because when I went out there, I couldn't get up and downs from anywhere. And I shot a really high score, and just my wedge shots and chip shots just weren't going close to the hole. And, you know, before you even look into that, maybe it is your wedge game, but we could also look deeper and find the whole analysis and look at, was it your wedges that wasn't good, or was it that maybe it could have been your approach shots that weren't good, right? So if you're in awkward approach shots, that would cause you to miss more greens than normal and miss it in awkward areas where your lies are bad, where your ball's buried in the rough, or maybe you're in the bunker and weird lies more often. Excuse me. Or you're in the the weak side of the green more often. Or maybe it could lead back into, drive felt pretty good, but I was all in these awkward angles to the flag, or the lies that I put myself in off the tee were worse than normal, that I just didn't position myself as well, which then caused me to do, you're looking for the chain and compounding that what may be disguising as a short game that could be an approach, or could be a tee shot, or could be just something else. Or maybe you're just running difficult lies, and then we would want to, think that we need to practice our short game. So look at your entire game to determine, like, what is the number one area that's going to make the largest impact? And when it's the largest impact, we always are looking for speed. What is it that I can work on that's going to take the least amount of time to give me the biggest results? If we had an unlimited amount of time and we could work on everything, we would just dump everything out there and work on everything. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury of time, and we only have little blocks and windows to be able to schedule these things in. So you want to make that time as specific as possible. So determine that largest area. Next would be, once you know and you get that clarity on what is the one area. Is it my driving? Is it my chipping or short game inside 30 yards, inside 50 yards? Is my putting, my short putting, my long putting? And you find that area, then you need to determine in your practice session how much time that we have to practice for that specific day. So when we look at the duration of your time, that means it's your actual production time. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have in my schedule 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock that's open. After school, I get done at 3 o'clock. I don't have any, I have to be somewhere at 4 o'clock, so I have an hour to practice. And that is what it would look like on your schedule. But when you start designing stuff, you need to know that, well, if I'm at school, or if I'm at home, or if I'm at some other place and I need to get to the golf course, I need to cover the transportation time. I need these buffers before and after. And let's say I'm at home and I'm 10 minutes away and I have to be somewhere at 4 o'clock, and that's another 10 minutes away. So that's already 20 minutes out of that 1 hour block that is already going to be buffered out. And then when we get there, it's, I got to go get golf balls, or I got to get settled in from the parking lot to wherever it is I'm going to practice green, putting green, driving range, and figure that in and give yourself another, let's say 10 minutes getting there and after. So 5 minutes on both sides. And then you're looking at 30 minutes of realistic practice time. So if we see that, we don't see the hour block that we think we have. We see an actual realistic 30 minutes of activities and drills and block training that we can actually put in. So when we start looking at that, it's not, I have all of these things that I can do in an hour. So I have realistically 30 minutes of actual focused time that I'm going to be building in. And that's going to help us design like what specific activities I can put in there. Third is going to be, we're going to brain dump all of the drills and activities around the number one area that you feel that you need work. And since we're talking about driving, let's say, driving has been the issue over the past several rounds. And even when I practice, I haven't been hitting a shot. I didn't have that much control. So driving is the number one thing. What is every single driving activity and driving drill and something along the way that I can dump into this, just so I can list it all. So we're just going to list as many as we can, just so we have a list. And as you list them, let's say one of my activities would be, hitting 25 drives in a 65-yard window. And that would be one of the activities I would want to do if I'm practicing driving. I would actually list how much time would that take. So realistically, for me to achieve that or shoot for that, I'm going to spend 25 minutes to get that. So I would write, driving in a 65-yard window, 25 minutes. Another one I would write in is like, well, I got to warm up too. So I'm going to hit 7 irons as far as possible off a tee. So I can get something shorter, get myself loosened up. So 7 irons, as far as I can, that'll be about 5 minutes. Then I'll say, Well, I'll hit some high hooks, 5 minutes. Some low stinger shots, 5 minutes. Some, hard fades, 5 minutes. And these would, for me, would be all awareness activities to get a feel of what the face is looking like. Then I might let's do some block training on, controlling my club face to swing direction to control the amount of curve and the start direction of my ball. That would be like more specific block training, and that would be 15 minutes. And I would list all of these things and actually put the time, because then when I look at it, I can see what can I fit into that time and what's going to make the most sense. And with the typical amount of time that I have, is it possible I can shorten the windows of some of the activities and drills to still get the benefit and fit it in the time duration that I set for myself. And some of the stuff you can do as you look at it, and others you can't. But you seeing the whole big picture allows you to pick and choose what's going to fit the best with the time that you have. As we go further down, we want to list your needed, I will write that in, your needed skills. So these skills are the ones that, as I said, it's your needed ones. It's the ones, no matter what, you need to be practicing those every time you step in a training and practice environment, or even if you're going to go play. Because these are things, in my opinion, that I give my students, is putting and short game things. So we have speed putting windows that we work on. That is like needed things for myself. So I would make sure I have my, less than 10-foot speed window drills. I'm gonna make sure I have my block putting on a rail drill to make sure my putting form is good. And I would put time limits on that. So speed window might take 10 minutes. My block rail putting might be 5 minutes. If I have my 40 to 100 yard wedge game is a needed skill for myself. So I'm gonna have that on there. So that's going to be on there as well. And the reason why you need this needed skills is because we often focus so much on like, what is the one thing that I want to do? What's the one thing that's bugging me? And we forget about the things that we need to maintain no matter what. And, I forget who had told me this before, but I'll never forget how they said it. And it was, the worst thing that could ever happen when you're practicing and training for actually anything, but he referred to golf, is that you're going to achieve success in the one thing that you're looking for in, let's say, hitting my drive better, or hitting my ball striking better, or getting my ball control better. And then you'll leave the day in your next round hitting perfect drives, perfect ball striking, and you're going to shoot the exact same score as what you entered with when you had this problem. So if you are like a scratch golfer and are always shooting, in the 70 to 74 range for 18 holes, and all of a sudden you're shooting in the high 70s, and it's my driving that's going off. I'm shooting 77, 78, 79, 80s, and I'm hitting balls out of bounds. I'm hitting them in the trees, and I'm getting more recoveries. So I'm going to focus all of this stuff, and I'm going to forget about my short putting. I'm going to forget about my little wedge game and just focus on this. And I'll go out for my next round, and I'll have the very best driving day ever, furthest I've ever hit it. And, best ball striking day where everything felt so controlled. But then the skills that I forgot about, in these needed skills that I should have just been maintaining, even for, 5 minutes every session, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, that I didn't do. Let's say it took me, 3 weeks to get this skill, underway, or 3 months, and I kind of just got lazy in this area, and I go and have those best days, and I'll come out shooting this exact same score. So there's nothing worse than getting out there, achieving your goal, but having the exact same performance that you entered with. So definitely list in whatever it is what is the needed skills that keeps your game on par no matter what. and make sure those are in there. Even if you have to cut them a little bit shorter, keep those in there, because those are the skills that compound over time. You may not see them, you know, immediately the next day, but those are the skills like putting, the wedge game, the chipping, you know, that the more you do it, they slowly stack on each other. But if you don't do it all, they also come backwards, and you don't, you know, see yourself, um, you don't notice it until you start playing and you say, oh my God, now it's my wedge game that I have to do, or it's my putting. And then you start shifting all these things around. So, you know, definitely the scoring shots are always the must needed things. Keep those in there. And finally, you know, once you have everything down here, you know, you're going to create your schedule. And that means, you know, once you have your time window that you can practice in, you grab all of these things from your brain dump drills and activities, your must needed things, and then you're actually going to plot it in a schedule. I use the word create your schedule because a lot of times we kind of just do this in your head, and you say, well, I got to practice driving. I know what activities I want to do, and I'm just going to go and do it and see where that goes. And I have pretty good clarity on what I want. So that's all I need. Reason why we need a schedule is because the schedule is going to maintain your time. As we showed earlier, we want to list the time that we're going to be spending on each, because we need to be very disciplined to your schedule. Emotion is the number one thing that gets in your way, because the moment you enter one activity and it's not going as well as you want, you're going to say, I'm going to stay here until I finish it. And you may not even finish it, and your time's up, and you missed everything else on the list that would be giving you a learning perspective, a learning, something that may have clicked in a different activity that would have made sense. And then you would have had a big aha, big light bulb moment to then take to the next session and readjust. So definitely you have to create a schedule. Don't just do it in your head. A little story that I saw with, you know, how schedules work. It was, I can't even remember the team now, but it was a story that was shared with me of a basketball coach. I'm not familiar with too much college basketball, but I'm pretty sure I know who he is. I think it was Coach K from Duke. So Coach K, one of the most winningest college basketball, or winningest coaches of all time, you know, eras of national championships. And someone has shared with me what his actual like schedule of a practice looks like. And like to look at why they achieved so much was incredible, because the amount of detail that he had on this one sheet of paper, like he had one sheet of paper that showed to the minute, you know, I don't know what time it was, but let's just say it was like starting at 12 to 12:03, you would be doing this activity. 12:03 from here would be a break to go to another activity. 12:07 to this one, to, you know, the next 20 minutes would be another activity. And he had this sheet that went down all the way down to the minute. And that's how he constructed all of his practices, where he didn't let emotion, he didn't let, you know, what his players look like and say, well, maybe you guys spend more time here. No, he kind of had everything set out. And at the end, if players needed more time in a specific area, it would be readjusted in the next practice. So if we let emotions get into the way of us figuring out like, how long should I practice? You know, I've been there. If you've been practicing a long time, think about a time that like you've been on the driving range or you've been on the putting green because you really wanted to get something figured out and you worked on the same thing. And when you finally you looked at it like, wow, my practice time is over. I think I figured it out. Or maybe I just got tired, but an hour went by and that's all I did. And then you leave kind of confused. Maybe you leave with a little bit of satisfaction because, oh, I got it. But doing it for that long, you know, typically we say we got it just because it's that sense of fulfillment. Oh, I finally got it, but what did I actually extract and what did I actually learn from doing that activity for that long, other than, you know, just being dedicated, committed to pushing through. So definitely create your schedule so it's blocked off where you see, like for the next 10 minutes, it's going to be this only. If I don't figure it out, I can still, doesn't mean I've lost everything. If I didn't figure that out, let's say I am hitting I'm working on some block practice with my driver, and I want to hit, some high draws that I'm working on something specific. And I'm measuring with, my launch monitor, and I'm looking at, I have 10 minutes scheduled in. If I'm not getting it in that 10 minutes, sometimes that break is needed for me to just kind of sit back, and I'm going to be moving on to the next activity that I've designed. But then I can say, well, although I didn't get it, I may ask the question, why didn't I get it? What could I have done differently to have this thing make more sense? Because me pushing the same idea over and over and hoping it's going to work rarely ever works. So that little, you're scheduling it so you have that little windows of break and reflection to just say, if you got it, then you can say like, oh, this really made sense. I did exactly what I wanted to do. What is it that clicked, right? And if it didn't, what is it that didn't click? And that way you kind of just make your way down the list and you get through everything that you need to do. And then, you take the summary of your practice session, things that was gained, things that was learned, things that you overcame, and then you make your adjustments to add into the next one, to take away from the next one, to adjust, to see and shape your way. As we talked about earlier, our practice design to be effective, it's never just one session that changes it. It's never going to see your golf coach and getting that one lesson that changes everything. It's finding that moment to understand and learn from what is it that I didn't know, and what did I just gain? Or what is it that I knew that I couldn't put into perspective of where I'm at right now? And those learning moments are the ones that you're going to take further and further along, and you're always restructuring your practices. And, the more you do it, then you start getting better and better. Excuse me. One other aspect that you're going to add to your schedule that kind of goes into the duration, we often think like that production time is a lot of just, activities and drills that we're going to do. But in your schedule, you're always going to save at least 5 minutes at the end. If you don't journal yet, I would highly recommend, start journaling, or keep a notebook in your bag or with you, because every time you finish your practice session, we're always looking for results. We're always looking at, and we always want to jump into the tactical things to get the results that we want. But we need to capture the moments of, of success, the moments that we've learned. We also need to capture the things that we need help with. So, even saving 5 minutes after your session, right, that you would create in your schedule, the last 5 minutes before you, pack up, leave, and go to wherever you need to go, is me writing in your journal. Like, write the date and take in like, oh, today was a great day. Every day you finish practice, it should always be a great day, no matter your performance. Because if you schedule it this way, even if your performance wasn't as well as you would like it to be, you're going to say, well, in these activities I struggled, but I figured out why I struggled. So my next practice, I think I figured out what I can do for the next time I try the same activity to work on my driving, or whichever category that is. And you're going to write that note down in that specific one. Or, oh, I got through this activity really easily because this made sense. And you're going to write that down. We need these reminders to let us know what is it that we're learning, what is it that we succeeded in. And oftentimes we can find, even if I go through an hour-and-a-half session and my performance, looking the outside in, my performance is basically flat and does not go up. And I, emotionally I might think, oh, not very good because I didn't hit it any better. I didn't putt any better. I didn't drive it any better. And the mindset, if I leave in that aspect, is going to be like, well, I'm probably not good. I guess I got to do it again and figure that out. I'll go through the same cycle. Whereas, well, if I go through all of these things, this is what I need to do. This is what I've learned. I'm actually coming out with so much more success and achievements, even if the performance isn't where I'm going. train yourself to see the achievements, the progress, because over time, as you take these achievements, these progresses, and shape it into the next one, you'll get maybe a little bit more success, right? And maybe your curve starts going a little bit higher. And then you say, well, this is what I learned. Maybe this one thing went a little bit better this time, but I learned this from this activity, this from this one. And you're pulling all of these moments and you reshape that into the next practice. And all of a sudden, maybe you get a second thing that went well and it starts compounding. And all of a sudden you hit, the highest level that you've been, right? It never happens overnight that we design one thing and it's perfect and we just stick with the same practice. The practice that you design is always and ever changing. There's never one practice session that you're going to do forever, right? There's activities that you're going to put in, drills that you're going to put in, and practice components that you'll put in that are going to be similar and maybe tweaked over time, but they'll be pretty similar over, your career. New things will come in. Some old things may go out. But as far as like how you're structuring, it's always going to be changing around, what you're learning, around what the number one area that's going to impact, your game the most or your fulfillment the most. So, if you're looking to play really good golf and get to the next level golf-wise, then it's score that's going to be the biggest impact. What's going to bring my score? For myself, I'm not looking, as we talked about earlier, to play any big tournaments, now. Maybe in the future, definitely it's something that I miss, playing competitive golf. But, I enjoy the social aspect and I always want to be learning. So like I'm looking for things that's going to keep me involved in the learning of golf. And right now it's driving and, it's wedging a lot. So those are the things that keep me fulfilled, to make sure that I'm not getting discouraged and then just doing things that I want to do because it makes me feel better, because I feel like I'm going to, succeed and get that initial fulfillment. I'm looking at things that I have to stretch to get to, work hard, actually, sit down, design stuff, fail a tremendous amount of times, but pull out, as much, learning aspects from the failed moments so I can make the next one better and fail a little bit less until, I stop failing in that aspect. So I will give you an example now, kind of how this kind of works, right? I did it we had a student in the past that, they want to play a lot of high level golf. And one of their, they're always looking for, well, everybody wants to hit it good, right? So they're working on their own thing. They have another coach that works on their technical stuff. And they want to hit it good, they want to putt good, and all those little components. But her one big thing, when she plays, when that person plays, is, they get upset a lot. The littlest things, they get upset. Maybe miss-hit a shot, maybe it's a little bit thin, and they're always like dragging on what is it that, or they're dragging on like the one thing that could have been better, right? And that kind of snowballs into, so if you've ever been there playing, like, you miss-hit a shot and like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And then that led to another miss-hit shot. And then it gets your focus off, or you come off with a round and it's a pretty good round and say, well, it should have been better because of this, right? And that only leads to, other things. And you start blaming a lot of scenarios, a lot of people. It's like, oh man, my lie was horrible, or this person talked in my swing, or, I was rushed on this one. And then we start playing that blame game. So definitely a really good golfer, but kind of fell into that category. And, we designed a practice for this person that kind of looked at what is the number one area that would be the largest impact. Well, it would be a way for her to manage their expectation and to understand, like, I just got to play golf, right? And we did it in a way where the time now is going to be, we have to catch these things in the act so we can create new triggers and adjust them as they go. So it can't be a short session. So it's a pretty long session. So it was a 2-hour session on the course. I dumped a ton of, ideas out on what can we do to work on expectation. you know, to understand the expectation, to just accept the shots that you have. And, you know, that because the skills they have, they hit really good shots, but why is it that, you know, their expectation gets them to like basically snap and blow up and, you know, fall down, right? Their must needed skills were in there, where because we're going to be playing on the course, it's going to be testing every aspect of it. And then, you know, the schedule that we created, you know, we built in what we would do for each hole, a different, you know, theme, topic, and how many times we're going to be doing it and how it's going to fit within the 2 hour class. And again, even if it's a 2 hour class, it's going on the golf course. So it's, when we put in these activities, it's blending in, you know, the time to drive out to the hole. It's the time to explain what we're doing to get them on board, right? That's a 15 minutes before. And then, you know, another 10 minutes after to close it down and recap, like what was learned today, you know? And the game that we had put up and the scenario we put on was basically, it was called, now I'm drawing a blank, your worst case scenario day or worst shot ever day. And, you know, their goal was to be a scratch golfer, an even par shooter. And if they didn't make pars or they missed birdie putts, you know, they would get upset if it was within the range that they typically would make. So, you know, how can we design something that is going to put them in a way so they can just accept what happened? So bad luck day, worst case, worst lie, worst scenario ever day. And we're going to play 9 holes. And the way it worked is everything around the short day. So we're going to assume, so the rules go, you know, we'll assume that you miss every single green in 9 holes. You know, you're still striving to shoot even par. So you miss every green in 9 holes, but you just end up in the most awkward, poor lie ever. We made a little bit of fun. We had a couple people in that group. So I started making the lies for them, but then it was designed to then on the next set of 3 holes, and the players can create lies for them. So like I would create buried lies in the bunker where maybe 1 foot was out of the bunker and it's buried. It's just unrealistic. Like 1 out of every several hundred shots would end up in that lie, right? And the first few shots, you know, were, you know, people are getting mad. This is not fair. We never get it like this. This isn't realistic. And I have to bring it back and say, you know, we talked about this earlier. We said it's not going to be very realistic, but it's going to definitely be different than what you've expected. And we're keeping score. So the goal is to shoot even par and to see, you know, how close to even par we can get with the worst case ever. So after the first couple holes, you know, people are getting mad, and all of a sudden we're talking and we're, you know, again, we're correcting it and we're adjusting it and creating the triggers in the act. So we're learning, even as we're calling it a fail, because we're saying it's a fail when they get upset with a certain situation. As they fail, we're explaining, you know, this is what we're learning and this is how we have to do it. But the next set, when they're having to design holes, now they're having fun. And so they start making and messing around and doing all crazy lies for each other. And so the next 3 holes go like that. And then the last 3 holes, it was a blend where I did one, the other person did one, and the other person did the other. And you would be doing it that way. But at the end of the day, you know, we finished. We didn't even talk about score. And in our ride home, it was a discussion about what did we learn today. And, you know, we learned that we can't control the lie that we have. We can't control the environment that we have, especially in the game that we just did today, because the other person was creating life for you, right? And, you know, they had a blast. They had said how much fun it was. They were able to, in that emotional state where they're saying how much fun, how fun was it to put that other person's ball in that crazy lie to see what they would do, right? What also came out was, since they're having fun doing it, the clarity that they got on the golf course when it was in crazy lies, buried in the bunker, you know, maybe 1 foot's out of the bunker, hitting out of, maybe having to go left-handed or doing something where it's on the edge of the bunker or in some weird hole. As they're having fun, they're actually thinking a lot clearer So then they start listing off as we're going, like, what could you do from this situation? Instead of, if we're upset walking in there, it's only one thing. Oh, how am I going to get it to the hole? When they were excited, they were like, well, there's no ways I can get it to the hole. My only option, or my few options, would be like to go sideways this way, or maybe bump it out to roll this way, and then go for the hole and figure out different opportunities. And so as they're excited, as they're having fun, their clarity got tremendously better, where they actually saw more options than when they were upset, when they were bitter about like an unfortunate situation that they're blaming. And so like, these are the things that were pulled out from that session as we're driving in. And then at the end, we calculated their score, you know? So they had to get up and down, meaning on the, from whatever situation I put them, on the green and one putt to make a par. They both shot in, I think one person shot in the high 50s, the other person shot in the 60s. And I said, when was the last time that you had fun shooting high 50s for 9 holes, or even 60s for 9 holes, right? And it's something that they laughed about. So how can you get a score that's so extremely high, and shooting in the high 50s and 60s is not even realistic for those players in real life? But how can you come out shooting high 50s and in the 60s and extracting all of this tremendous knowledge, education, learning things to then put into the next practice session and readjust and have fun doing it, right? And it's all about the design, right? You have to create ways and windows to attack, you know, the number one area, and then design ways to take the emotion of what happens out of it. And that would be the biggest thing with why we create the schedule. So as we close up on this one, you know, a couple other things I want you to leave with is, I want you to make sure, like, even if you don't follow exactly what I'm explaining to you here, I do want you to get at least, you know, the principles, and leave with, you know, what can I do tonight that's going to better my golf game for tomorrow? Maybe I can spend 5 minutes this evening right after this call tonight and say, let me look back at the last, you know, several rounds of golf I played, or the last several practice sessions. What is the number one area that's going to make the largest impact in my golf game? Whether it's my fulfillment of playing the game, whether it's lowering my score, just determine and get the clarity around, like, what is this? If you know what this is, you can build a purpose and emotional drive around it. And if you can get attached enough to why you want to get better and create that purpose, then all of this stuff becomes easy, right? All of that stuff becomes where you go through it, and even if it doesn't work, you're so attached to why you want to get better, why you want to achieve this, that you'll be able to extract the great stuff and then shift it into the next one, into the next session. And then take that and you keep on going until you achieve the goal that you have. You know, again, I'm going to always remind you, there's no magic pill that's going to say one practice is going to get you there. It's all about taking what you have, adjusting it, making it better for the next time. Taking what you have there, adjusting it, making better for the next time. You know, always making it better. You know, and, you know, common things that, again, I'll remind you that, you know, we all do, is if we don't plan things out, we're just going to say, yeah, I understand all of this concept here. It makes sense to me. So I'm going to do it all in my head. I know what I need to work on. I need to work on my driving. I'm not hitting it very good. My ball's slicing to the right. So I'm just going to go to the golf course, work on hooks, and try and get the ball hook right to left. And I'm going to tell you, that's not going to work, because the moment you get stressed out, and the ball is not hooking, your contact is not on, whether it's session number 1, session number 2, session number 3, and it's not designed, it's eventually going to go into, well, maybe I don't need the driver. I'm going to do something that I want. And then you're going to focus on things that do not get you closer to the goal that you want to go. You're going to go for the things that give you the fulfillment aspect of it. Let me just go, you know, to the putting green and make a few good putts, because that'll make me feel good right now, as opposed to designing it and put the putting in the design. right? Put the things that you do well. Those are probably the things that keep your score, the must needed skills. The things that you enjoy are typically the must needed skills because we're usually good at those too. But design those things in, right? Or even if it's not a must needed skill, things that you enjoy, and add it into like your little brain dump here. Because if you're a person that needs to go there because we get stressed out a little bit and we need some sense of fulfillment, put that in there for a couple minutes, or like a small little session, a window to give you a break to then go back to, you know, what's really gonna, you know, move yourself closer to the end. So that being said, thank you guys all for your time. And we do have a few minutes here. So if you do have any questions, you can shoot them in the chat window. Thank you guys for staying on board and listening. I do have so there, well, it's kind of a long one, but I'll kind of extract the question. Why can't I blame? So when we hear the blame game, you know, when we start blaming stuff outside of ourselves is when we don't take accountability for what's really going on. So again, like as I said, when we find a little bit of struggle, we always want to find the easier route and get that sense of fulfillment. So when we play the blame game, and even if somebody does talk in your swing, even if somebody does try and mess you up on purpose, it's much easier to blame somebody, blame a tree that fell, blame an animal that barked, blame something, because it makes us feel better. But at the end of the day, it doesn't get us any closer to the performance or the goal that we want, right? It just takes a lot of energy to blame and blame something else out of our control as opposed to, it's a much more difficult thing to do to say, you know what? I missed that putt because I lost focus. You know, there may have been noise around, or there may have been something, there may have been wind, there may have been somebody rushing me, but I'm the one that missed that putt. But now I know what triggered me to miss that putt. And is this a big factor that I need to train, or was that just one thing that probably rarely ever happens, right? And if it's something where it's windy and you're just feeling the wind and you're playing places that are windy, maybe it's something that you practice in the wind and you have to build in your training. Maybe somebody talked in your swing and you want to blame them. People rarely talk, right? That's not a common thing. So to then say and use the energy to train for that, probably not as necessary. But you know, the sooner we take accountability for all of the actions that happen, right? Whenever things go great, right? I'm sure things that we blame is somebody talking our swing or tried to mess up. We hit really good shots in that same scenario, but we did not blame them, right? So when we think about blaming, right? If you're gonna blame for one thing, also blame for all the great things that happen too, right? So somebody talking hit a great one, you can say, well, thank you for talking. I hit it really good, right? You have to keep it balanced on both sides. But, you know, I'm not a big believer in playing that game because it just takes too much energy. It never moves you closer to where you want to get, where you want to be. You know, another big thing that we start blaming is, you know, we blame the fact that, oh, I didn't practice today. I didn't get a chance to warm up. I didn't make the putting green, right? I was rushed over here, or I have a headache today, you know, instead of, you know, just taking the accountability and saying, well, today I just didn't hit it well. I just didn't putt good. I wasn't prepared. How can I prepare better, right? If we take the accountability, the very next question is always, what can I do to then overcome that thing that I'm accountable for? And if you're in that learning and growing mindset, then anything that happens, we grow from and we learn. We talked about that's why we design. We want to pull and extract things to learn from. Whenever we push things externally and say, I blame this, blame that, then, you know, we don't take any accountability and we don't learn. Yes, that is my dog behind me. He's sleeping on the couch. This is Clifford here. He wanted to join us today. You say hi? Look. Do we have any other questions this evening? If we do not, awesome. Well, thank you guys all for joining. And we will see you guys all in the next one. Have a great night.